Hi there, and welcome to Q&A Wednesday. I'm Melissa Fillmore of Fillmore Fitness, and I'm here to answer your questions about health and fitness and wellness and life in general. So it's awesome. The Wednesdays come so fast. Now, if Wednesday in the summer would just come faster, I would be a happy girl. So hopefully this is working better this week than it was last week. We had some issues with technology, and that's about how it rolls. So if you can see this, hop on and let me know that you can see this so I can make sure that the everything's working today with the Wi-Fi. We have a great topic today, but hey, really quick before I get rolling, got something new coming up. I'm going to be starting a podcast in the very, very near future. And so I got to name that puppy. I'm not quite sure what to name it. I want to be okay. Chris tells me that she can see me, so that's good. At least we know it's working. I need a name for the podcast. I want something fun. Hey, Ronnie, something that has to do with it. It's going to be a little more towards, the life, kind of what the life edition, the real life edition was when we were doing Thursday Facebook Lives. And of course, that just has not been able to work out recently, only because all my clients are evening clients right now. So it's been quite interesting to try and fit everybody in. But I had a totally different topic that I was going to speak on tonight. And then all of a sudden, I just had this incredible idea because, I think that cravings are something we all deal with to a certain extent. And I think sometimes they're misunderstood as to why we have them. We all have cravings. I mean, honestly, I crave chocolate. And sometimes it's because I'm a girl, right? That time of the month, I would just want some chocolate. I'm not going to lie. I have a sweet tooth. I love chocolate. Fortunately, as I've gotten a little bit older and I eat super, super clean, I no longer like the same types of chocolate that I used to like. I actually prefer, here's my theory. If I got to work it off, whatever that is that I got to work off, it better be the most amazing thing I've ever tasted in my whole life, because I know that to some degree, I'm going to have to exercise it back off. Makes a world of difference when you kind of look at it that way. So tonight we're going to talk about why we have cravings, because it's, there's actually multiple reasons. And I'm going to give you some tips before we're done to be able to maybe hopefully work around that, because unfortunately sometimes those cravings get so intense that we give into it, and a lot of times that's why we end up eating things that we know aren't part of our clean meal plan, and so trying to avoid that. Now, not saying that you can't ever have the things that you love. I'm a big proponent of things like having a free meal once a week. Now, of course, you know that there's a difference between a free meal and a cheat meal, and a refeed for those of you who have ever carb cycled or been part of the bodybuilding world. We know all about refeeds, but there is a huge difference. A free meal is the ability to have something that's not necessarily on your regular meal plan, or maybe it's above and beyond your macros or your calories for the day. And once in a week, if you're not working on something specific, I think a free meal is really important to put into your regular healthy life, because you can't always be at a deficit of calories. Your metabolism will drop to match or meet that. Not only that, but within your emotional and mental health, I think it's important to allow yourself some things you wouldn't normally have. Now, the difference between a cheat meal and a free meal, of course, is something that isn't normally part of your meal plan or something you would regularly have. Like, hey, you know what? You want to have pizza with your kids? That's awesome. Have a couple of pieces of pizza and a salad. Now, a cheat meal tends to be a free-for-all. And the problem with that is, number one, we usually make ourselves sick. At least I do when I tend to eat like that. But for some people, that can be a really big downfall. Sometimes a cheat meal turns into a cheat day, which turns into a cheat weekend, and then you're completely derailed and off your plan for your goals. So keep that in mind, that sometimes those cravings have a lot to do with that. I know a lot of people, do really, 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 really well, and they really deny themselves the ability to have something that they want once in a while. And then, of course, they binge and go crazy, and then, of course, get themselves completely off track. So why do we crave things? So let's talk about what a craving is. There's a big difference between being wanting something or having some hunger physically, that your body actually is saying, hey, you need to feed me. And when we have that craving that's more of like a mental and emotional hunger, sometimes we call that a phantom hunger. And I'm going to tell you the difference in just a second. But what a craving is an intense desire for something specific, usually comfort food. I actually looked all this up because, I wanted to know what Webster Dictionary had to say. Anyway, it's also been called selective hunger because it's not a real hunger. It's not when you're physically hungry. Anything will take care of it. It's that feeling is more of like a tightening of the stomach. It's actually a physical, almost like a pain. And honestly, if you're physically hungry, anything will take care of it. Fruits, vegetables, healthier foods will actually solve that, satiate you, make you feel better, take away that hunger, versus a selective or more of a emotional or mental hunger, or like I said, a phantom hunger is more of a craving. It tends to be something you're going to crave comfort food, right? Something that's usually slightly unhealthy or really unhealthy. And that's kind of how I've tried to teach my children. My son will come home from school and say, Mom, I'm hungry. And I'm like, okay, great. You know what? There's string cheese, there's vegetables in the fridge. And I know, is it frozen? Oh my gosh. I really hate when that does that. So somebody else hop on there and tell me if they can see me or not. I'm getting a little frustrated with technology today. Hopefully I can remember what I'm talking about. Somebody else hop on there really quick. Tell me am I moving? Because otherwise I'll hop off and start over again. I don't have anybody participating, so not sure if it's working or not. So I'm gonna give it 2 seconds here. Can somebody hop on there? Chris, tell me, am I moving at all? Or should I start over? Not getting feedback. So just got a thumbs up though, so not quite sure. I'm gonna keep talking. If somebody will hop on there and tell me if they can see me, let me know, because I don't wanna keep talking and nobody's on here. I'm having some specific issues with that. But okay, maybe I'll just hop off anyway. All right, I'm gonna hop off and hop back on and see if I can start it again, see if we can't make this work. Jesus says I'm good. Okay, so hopefully we're still good with that. Okay, so back to being physically hungry versus having okay, Michael says I am breaking up. I don't know what the deal is with this. All right, I'm gonna hop off, guys, and hop back on, and maybe we'll get some better results here. So all right, be right back. Okay, hopefully I'm having some better luck here. I do not know why I'm having such issues with technology at this point. Hopefully some people pop on and let me know if this is working. We've just covered the fact, we're talking about cravings tonight. We're talking about the difference between physical hunger versus, okay, Jesus, tell me if you can see me, right? Because I need to know if this is working. So we're talking about cravings tonight, and the difference between physical hunger and mental hunger. And we're going to talk a little bit about why we have cravings, because there's actually a lot of reasons why our body tends to crave. And it's a very powerful, intense desire for to consume specific foods. So again, talking to my kids, when they come home and they're hungry, a lot of times I'll say, there's vegetables in the fridge, there's fruits. And so that if something healthy and clean will satisfy it, you are probably physically hungry. And having a metabolism is not a bad thing. Anytime somebody starts talking about appetite suppressants, I'm not a fan. I really feel like an actual appetite, which is a physical hunger from your body, tells you actually need food, you need fuel. And so when you suppress that, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. You're supposed to be hungry. You need to feed it. The problem is what you feed it with. Of course, if you're feeding it with good, healthy foods, and for those of you that have ever worked with me nutritionally wise, that I'm going to tell you need to eat a certain amount of calories in order for your body, even if you have a health goal to quote unquote lose weight, you need to walk that down, because if you drop your calories too fast, your body's metabolism will drop to meet that. So, you need to be able to eat a certain amount of calories. And when you eat it in clean, healthy foods, it's a lot of volume. It's a lot of food. It's the reason Melissa eats 6 times a day. So there is a big difference. Now, when it comes to cravings, there's multiple reasons why we tend to have cravings. And I've got a pretty decent list. Because again, it could be any number of these. And then I am going to give you some tips towards the end on how to overcome cravings, because it is possible. So if you think about why our body tends to crave, there has a lot to do with biochemistry and some neuroscience, and we're not going to delve too deeply in that. I'm actually going to make this as simple as possible. But one of the first ones, most of you might have heard that, you might have a vitamin deficiency. So if you've ever seen the charts, and I pulled one up on my old phone, yes, I still have this stupid little thing. When you have a vitamin deficiency, your body's going to crave certain foods because it knows that that's what it's going to get out of it, is that vitamin. So if you've ever seen like those charts, either on Pinterest or, sometimes you see them on social media, that tells you, if you crave chocolate, it might be because you are missing this vitamin. And then it also can give you some alternatives on what you can eat instead of a junk food or sugar-filled or something processed that can still give you those vitamins and nutrients without giving you all the empty calories. So things like, if you're craving chocolate, you might be missing some magnesium, which you can also get from other things such as veggies, fruits, seeds, nuts. So yeah, it's a it's a powerful feeling to crave, like I said, especially during certain times of the month for us ladies. But it could very well be that your body is missing some sort of nutrients, especially if you are, and we're going to talk about like low calorie diets, or if you're really not getting the amount of nutrition that you need overall, your body is going to tell you so. And it's one of the ways that it tells you, hey, you need to feed me more. You need to feed me more of certain things because I need this in order to function at my most efficient. So cravings have a purpose for the most part. There's a couple of options I'm going to tell you about that, of course, not the best reasons to have cravings, but you can rehabilitate. And we'll talk a little bit about that too. So, you might go through a checklist. If you're really craving something, why is it that I'm craving? Am I missing out on, especially even if you're eating super, super clean, I eat really, really clean, but I tend to eat fairly similarly every day. So I'm not always getting a variety of different colored vegetables. I might be missing out on some of the vitamins and minerals that come from those. So, making sure that I get that in another way through supplementation, or just making sure I change up my foods might be a great option for that. So vitamin deficiency might be one reason that you're craving certain foods. Number 2, hormones. Oh yeah. And ladies, we all know we're talking about us because that's usually part of it. So, if you're a woman and you've ever been pregnant, oh my gosh, that when you're pregnant, you tend to crave some outlandish, crazy things. And usually, again, it's because your body is in need of something specific. And so it's trying to find a way to give you that. And if you are pregnant and any sort of nauseated on a regular basis and not everything sounds good, sometimes it's difficult to get some of those foods in that give you the nutrients that you need there. So, hormones can play a huge role. A lot of times just before our periods, our menstrual cycles, we tend to crave things like chocolate. And again, because, when our bodies go through that cycle and get rid of what it does, we're actually getting rid of some things. So like if you're low on iron or low on some other nutrients, your body will crave certain things. So, it does play a huge role hormonally as to whether or not you're craving. Another one, so number 3, dehydration. I know that this one sounds a little weird. Like, why would I crave food if I'm dehydrated? Because your body's telling you something's missing. And you might not be able to figure out quite what that is. Like I said, it might be good to have a checklist of, why might I be craving? Am I getting enough vitamins and minerals? Am I getting enough healthy foods so that you're getting all those things that you need? But dehydration could be one of them because your body knows it's missing something. So again, sometimes it gets what it needs through foods. If you're eating a lot of vegetables and things like that, you're getting some of your hydration through those vegetables. And so it can actually crave in that way. But, I've noticed that sometimes, if you're not really good about getting your water in, you might crave certain things because your body, again, anytime that your body feels there's a deficiency, your body has 2 goals. Number 1, to survive. That is its first goal. And if it feels like it's missing something, if it's deficient in something, it will give you a reason or a way to tell you, hey, I need it. I need something. And it's sometimes it's hard to tell. But if you're tracking your water intake or if you're paying attention, there comes a time when you can really learn to read your body. It will tell you what it needs. I have gotten to that point in my life. I eat so clean and I eat so regularly and very specifically that I can tell if I'm missing something. My body just kind of reacts in a way that I'm like, dude, something is not quite right. So dehydration could be one of those reasons. Another one is low energy. Now, again, there's different reasons to crave carbs, but carbs are your nutrition or nutrient, your macronutrient that gives you energy. It's an energy source. And so, if you're crashing mid-afternoon because you haven't eaten enough food or you don't have the right ratio of your macronutrients, of course, macronutrients are proteins, carbs, and fats, your body might very well crave something because, again, notice we're saying it's missing something. So, if you're not eating throughout the day, that is one of the reasons why I tend to eat more often throughout the day versus like 3 main meals. I find that it stabilizes my blood sugar. It helps me to not hit that crash mid-afternoon because I'm fueling my body with what it needs. And so I don't tend to necessarily have that issue as much. Not saying I don't, because again, me and chocolate, we're good friends. But, that could be one of the reasons why you're tending to crave carbs because your body needs an energy source and it's just not really getting what it needs. And of course, if you tend to do a lot of simple sugars, junk food to try and solve that, like 5-hour energy drinks, whatever, you're giving it kind of the the cocaine form of caffeine, the white powdered stuff, you tend to crash. And of course, then your body's going to just crave more. Another reason that here's the deal. The last few weeks I've talked more than once about really low calorie diets. I think one of the craziest things that I see over and over and over again when I start talking with people is the lack of knowledge on how many calories that any one person should have. And so a lot of times I'm getting people who are eating way too low in calories for what their current body weight is. And if you don't feed your body what it thinks it needs, it's not going to let go of the fat or the weight for that matter. And if you tend to, again, your body doesn't know the difference between diet and starvation. It just assumes, oh my gosh, I don't know when she's going to eat again. I'm literally going to hold on to everything I have. And one of your bodies, we talked about your body's first and foremost goal is to survive. So if you're not giving it enough calories, your body is going to do whatever it takes to make sure you survive, which could be some pretty intense cravings because all it needs you to do is feed it. If you're 250 pounds and eating 1,200 calories, your body's going, listen, jerk, I'm not getting enough food. And so those hormones kick in and say, okay, you know what, we're hungry. And so they go into overdrive, and it doesn't care whether it's good or bad calories or good options. It just needs you to feed it enough so it can survive. Food is fuel. So keep that in mind. And of course, the other purpose that your body has and these are things without you knowing it. This is what your body does subconsciously: survive and avoid pain. So keep that in mind, that if you're not eating enough food, your body will give you some pretty intense cravings because that's its way. It's not willpower, guys. When you're at a ridiculously low level of calories for where you're at, your body will find a way. It will find a way to survive. And that is its goal. It's going to give you some of those intense cravings. Okay. Also, and one of the biggest ones, I got a couple more here. Emotional eating. I grew up having a very unhealthy relationship with food. I learned to eat because I was stressed or bored. And we'll talk about the boredom here in a minute because that comes in with conditioning and habits. But, when it comes to emotional eating, we do it because we want to feel better. We want to feel good. We don't like the way that we feel when we're stressed. We're trying to kind of combat that cortisol release into our bodies. And so what unhealthy foods or comfort foods tend to do is they're feel-good foods. That's why they're called comfort foods. They release that round of dopamine in our brains that makes us feel better. Of course, those of us that have been through that guilt cycle and that, it doesn't really solve anything, but it becomes something that our body looks forward to. It finds a way. It can be an addiction, which again is another one, but they're kind of intertwined here. It can become an addiction just like drugs and alcohol because your body needs that to feel better. So, again, I'm going to give you some ways to get around that. But it has a lot to do with your adrenals, how your body responds to things. And so it's not the best option. We're going to talk about how to find other ways around that versus, giving into those big time cravings. Okay. Part of it is just knowing your triggers, knowing what sets you off. I highly recommend that if you have issues with this, get a journal. Just get, a composition notebook, write down what's happening. What is it that you're craving? See if you can come up with, what sets you off and then find other ways to work with it. That is probably one of the biggest things I've been able to do in the last, 8-9 years through learning to live a healthy lifestyle is instead of literally, I have threatened to drown myself in M&Ms before. And instead of doing that, which is obviously not the most healthy option, and I'm not going to lie, there has been times in the last 7-8 years where I have eaten my feelings. That is sometimes how I've given in. I'm human. But I do have a list of other ways to get around that without giving into those cravings. So that's a big one. And that takes some time to change. So, don't beat yourself up. It's difficult, especially the older we get and the more ingrained in our habits that we get, the harder it is to change. I just heard in something I listened to a lot of motivational speakers, but they talked about that as adults, after about age 20, it's very difficult to learn new things, new habits. Usually, in order for us to learn something new, it has to be involved with some sort of a life trauma, which kind of sucks, but it's true. A lot of us are so ingrained in what we do and in our habits that it's very difficult to make that habit change or that lifestyle change unless something major happens. Anything from illness to near-death experiences to, for me, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew there had to be some other option there. So that could be one of them. Conditioning / habits, basically. Something that you already always do. You know, my dad, when I was a kid, used to sit down in front of a football game and he would pop open a beer and a bag of, and I remember this vividly, salt and vinegar potato chips. And that's what he did because that was the habit associated with watching a football game. So if you have something that you're used to, you know, if every night you climb into bed and you eat a pint of ice cream, your body's going to expect it. That's the habit. That's the craving that you've created for yourself. And it's very difficult to unhabit yourself for. You almost have to replace a habit with a habit. And again, kind of knowing your cue or your trigger, you know, if you're finding that you're always doing something specific, you're going to have to put something in there that breaks that habit, you know, that kind of shuts that part of the brain off or takes it away from that situation in order to recreate a new habit or retrain your brain. And then of course, my biggest reason why you probably crave is addiction. Now this is a multi-level issue. And we're gonna talk about a couple of things, but the biggest one is that in general, refined sugar. Now there's sugar in a lot of things. There's natural sugars in things like fruits and even vegetables. And of course like honey, and sugar is sugar, although things like the fruits obviously have a little more to offer than say a candy bar or something that contains added refined sugar. And definitely the more that you can stay away from high fructose corn syrup, the better off you're going to be. The research really has shown that it messes with your hormone levels, your ghrelin and your leptin, that tells you whether you're hungry or full, satiated. And so once those are off, it's really easy to keep eating because, and partially we're gonna talk about flavors in a second, but again, once you start eating that and your brain never tells you, hey, you're full, that becomes a problem. And then we binge and overeat and then we have some issues there. So sugar is an addictive substance, just like cocaine. And like I said, I always hear these conflicting research, but yeah, I tend to take research plus experience plus some common sense and put them together. And what I've learned, and considering I've been a sugar addict, I know it's true because once you try to detox yourself from sugar, there are physical withdrawals from sugar that actually happen. So I know that is partially an issue. And here's the deal. The big food industry knows this. You know, they've got this situation figured out. It's kind of a weird thing where it's like, you know what, we're all adults, we should be able to have our choice, but unfortunately they're doing a lot of sneaky little things like putting sugar in things you wouldn't expect. I didn't even know this, but did you know that there's actually sugar in iodized salt? Look it up. Look at the ingredient list. It actually says dextrose. Remember that anything ending in ose is a sugar. There's sugar like in things you wouldn't believe, and the problem with that is that because that releases that round of dopamine in your brain and it feels good and you like how that feels, then you tend to go back for more. You'll find things, I didn't even know this till I started last year looking for sodium-free candy, sodium-free, fat-free candy. Try finding it. It's hard to find. Most candy has an element of sugar so that it buffers the sweet. Okay, so I've got salt in a product that should be sugar. Sorry, I'm going backwards a little bit here, but I'll talk about the other one in a second. But they mix those to balance them out so that you will eat more of them, right? Because if it's overly sweet, you'll stop eating it. But if they add a little bit of salt, you're going to continue to eat because it buffers that. And same thing with salty foods. You know, things like spaghetti sauce. Ooh, look and see how much sugar's in spaghetti sauce. It's amazing. Because even though it's something that should be a little more savory, the sugar buffers that saltiness and gives it a good flavor. Now, something to be said for flavor. Guys, you think that the food industry's got our back. You know what? There's been so much ridiculous research done. They know what flavors to put together that create the ultimate flavor that keeps you coming back for more. Think about it. How many things do you have? How many foods, junk food, comfort food, processed food, do you know that has just one flavor? Of course, they are a balance of many flavors in order to hit that perfect note that's just enough that tastes good, but not overdoing it. So you keep coming back for more. Doritos is one of them. They've got the perfect flavor profile so that, one chip tastes good and it's hard to put them down. And they even challenge you. Bet you can't eat just one. I don't even remember what food that is, but that's the slogan. So, that's what they're searching for. That combination of flavor gives you the perfect flavor profile that overrides one flavor. Think about it. If you're eating healthy, clean food, you don't get sick of it. You don't get overwhelmed with it, in one sitting and can eat and eat and eat until you want to be sick. If it's a clean, healthy food, it usually has one flavor note. So yeah, you don't necessarily want to keep eating that, but anything that has a whole lot more different flavors that have, like I said, been balanced and researched and put together to be the perfect flavor note, it overrides that part of the brain that says, dude, I'm full. I don't need any more. And so we continue to eat until it gets a little bit out of control. Now, here's the problem with that. You know, you would say, okay, well, we blame the big food industry, or we blame government because they let the big food industry do this. Well, you know, we have a little bit of responsibility there. I agree that, you know, they shouldn't be doing this garbage. Somewhere in there, we need to be educated, because that was my issue. I wasn't educated. I didn't know how to eat healthy. But here's the thing, supply and demand. They will continue to make this stuff as long as we tend to continue to buy it. So we are partially responsible for the fact that, you know, these foods are available. They're plentiful. I look back at my unhealthy lifestyle, 10, 15 years ago, and unhealthy food was a staple in my diet on a daily basis. Now that I eat really healthy on a regular basis, I don't. I might have something here or there, and that's that's how it should be. Eating something unhealthy once in a while will not kill you. The problem is eating those things over and over and over again. And the more that you eat, the more you become addicted, the more it changes your taste buds to desire and want those kind of foods. That's what they're for. They want you to keep coming back for more, because you know what? They want you to buy their product. They need to answer to their shareholders. That's something that is important to them. They're not going to teach you. You know what? They put on a good face. All these big companies that are saying, make educated decisions, have a balanced food. You're still promoting crap, guys. You're still promoting it. So you might be looking like you're saving face, but you're still promoting the junk. So keep that in mind. They don't really want us to become unaddicted to the foods that they're offering us. So, it's hard to deal with that and get your taste buds. A lot of people say, well, I don't like the taste of vegetables. That's because your taste buds have become so accustomed to those flavor profiles. Of course they don't want to have good, healthy food. It doesn't taste good anymore if they find that it tastes at all. Now, here's the hopeful note. You know what? Your taste buds can be rehabilitated. The more that you cut out the junk and the sodium filled and the trans fats and the nasty, disgusting American diet that has caused the obesity epidemic in this nation, the more that your taste buds will actually appreciate healthier flavors. Now, I have a good former client who's a friend of mine, and bless her little heart, she did the goal was 30 days. I believe she made it 22 of a sugar detox. And one of the things she posted very, very recently was that when she did go off that sugar detox and taste some of those things that she used to love, she found that they didn't taste as good. The chocolate just tasted cheap. And I totally agree. Like I said, I don't eat that stuff very often. So things that I used to love as a kid, like Butterfinger and, some of those just really now, like Hostess. Oh my gosh. Blech. Some of those products that I used to eat don't taste as good anymore. So if I do eat something that's more on the unhealthy extra side, I really pick and choose what I'm eating because I want it to taste amazing. Yes, your taste buds can be updated and rehabilitated, but it takes some time, and you're going to have to be patient with that, and really be careful how you choose to go about that. Now, I found some really good information as I was studying, because I always do research on health.usnews.com. There's an article called 10 Things the Food Industry Doesn't Want You to Know. You might read that. It's some pretty good information. Again, they're trying to put on a good face and do some good public relations, but we know what they're doing. I mean, it's all about profit. So just a few things to help you to get past some of those issues, because again, I don't know that you're ever going to 100% get past craving food or certain foods. It will get better. It can. I don't nearly crave physically the things that I used to anymore. If anything, it's still maybe a mental and emotional or psychological craving. But here's some things that you can do to help overcome that. Number one, you got to know what your triggers are. You got to be a lot more self-aware what sets you off, whether it's stress, whether it's boredom. And again, boredom kind of falls under that, habits that, you wander through the house, you're sitting watching TV, you feel like putting something in your mouth. But if you know what tends to set you off, if you keep that food diary, you can make some choices to help you avoid that. I've learned to have kind of a plan B and a plan C. If I notice that I'm not craving physically, I'm craving mentally and emotionally, what can I do to overcome that? And it might be, get back to the gym, go for a walk, listen to music, drink a big glass of water, maybe even a cup of coffee, just something that keeps my mind and brings me to another place. I have other forms of stress management. So that no longer applies to me the way it did 10, 12 years ago when I was, an obese woman. So manage your environment. That can mean a couple of different things. I mean, obviously, only you can control how much stress you have in your life on a regular basis. But that also means be careful what you have around the house, so that when you do hit those trigger moments that you're not running for the Oreos. And I'm not kidding. The rule at my house early on became, before everybody else jumped on the bandwagon with health goals in my household, took them a while to catch on. But the rule became, you know what, that's fine if you're going to go eat that, but don't bring it home. I don't want to see it, don't want to smell it. And now we try to, my kids actually, they're on meal plans, their choice. If I'm having a free meal or cheat meal or I'm in that part of my life, and they don't want to be part of that, they're like, that's great, Mom, go out with Dad. I don't want to smell it. So, they've become very self-aware of what their triggers are and also their environment. So we don't keep garbage at home. We don't keep a bunch of sugar. We don't keep snacks, things that I used to put in my kids' lunches way back when that I thought was healthy. That just wasn't. Fruit snacks do not contain fruit. We don't keep those in the house anymore. So when we go off the deep end or we're having one of those days, we don't tend to reach for that, because it's not there. Have a plan. You always have to have a plan B and a plan C. Now, if you give in to cravings, you know what? Don't beat yourself up. It happens. Like I said, I've even been known even in the last couple of years, and I fully admit it. Like I remember, probably about a year ago, hopping on here and going, I just ate an entire bag of black jelly beans all by myself. So I'm not immune to it. Like I said, I just know a little bit better on how to deal with it. So have a plan. You might try to wait it out. Give it 15 minutes. See if that passes. Sometimes, you just need a minute. Drink a glass of water because again, that craving could be dehydration. That might help solve it for you. Give in, but choose smaller portions. That might be a difficult one because to be honest, when I have a craving and I give into it, I tend to go all out. All of a sudden, it's not the small portion. It tends to be, a full-on binge. Now, that's not always true. I've learned some little tips and tricks, like instead of eating, a candy bar, maybe I just need to eat a rice cake and that'll do for me. But I also know that I can't do the big bag of the small rice cakes because I'll eat the whole bag. It's like chips. But if it's portion controlled, then I don't have as big of an option with that. You also might, in order to get around the cravings, think about the bigger want. Think about the bigger reason that you're in, what's your goal? Why are you trying to hit that goal? Are you trying to be a healthier person overall? Sometimes it's as easy as, do I really want this cookie or do I want to look really good in my bathing suit this summer? Because maybe that's my goal. Maybe I'm going on a trip and that's my goal. And I want to feel good in that bikini more than I want that cookie. I have my clients, I give my clients 24/7 access to text me at any time because I know that there's going to be times that they need me that it's not going to be at the gym. And a lot of times that's what it is. I really want blah, 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 whatever it is. And I know it's not always sweets. It could just be, potato chips. It could be salty. It could be, something really outlandish. I don't know. But a lot of times I get that text going, okay, I really, really want this right now. Or somebody just brought donuts to work and I don't know how to get around that. And my question is usually, which do you want more? Their goal that we've talked about over and over again, or do you want that donut? Because my theory is, and I know that this works, that if your goals are bigger than your obstacles, you're going to win, right? If they're bigger than your obstacles, you just have to want it so badly that you don't want that donut, right? And that does work. Yes, Kayla, I can see you. I can see there. Am I talking to you? I'm talking to everybody, but if you're resonating with it, maybe this message is for you today. So be a little bit better in how you respond. It's going to take some practice. So again, don't beat yourself up. Cravings are a powerful thing for all those reasons we talked about earlier of why your body tends to crave. And above and beyond, really work to retrain your taste buds. One of the things I'm learning as I work with clients is I tell people, of course, to cut out as much sugar and processed food as possible. But on the other hand, when we tend to cut things out, we tend to feel a void. So instead of always thinking that direction, think more about putting things into your your meal plan or diet. I just don't like the word diet. Put them into your nutrition schedule that replace some of those things with healthier options. So, start putting more fruits and vegetables in there. See if you can't find ways. You know what? I eat enough food. I'm never physically hungry at this point. I eat a lot of food, guys. I'm trying to maintain some muscle here. So I know that I'm not physically hungry. When I start to really crave, I know that there's, some sort of emotional issue going on. And again, at this point, I know how to handle it. And sometimes just eating something healthier, like maybe a green pepper or something with a little bit of crunch, can help me get through that craving without going off the deep end, because I've retrained my taste buds to like those kind of things. So that really does help. So hopefully I've helped you a little bit. I'm going to leave you with a challenge. I know that it's difficult, and I remember the very, very first time and I was probably a teenager. I remember somebody telling me that they had cut sugar out of their diet, and I couldn't believe it. Like, why would you do that? And now this was back in the days where, the big drama about how fat causes fat. And of course, at this point, we know that's so much garbage, because your body needs a certain amount of healthy fats in order to function properly. But of course, they came out with all this research. It was totally flawed and probably put out by the big food industry anyway, because now they came out with all these like low fat foods, right? But the problem with low fat foods is that they had to replace it with something. And what did they replace it with? Sugar. Because you got to have taste. If you take something out, you got to replace it with something so people will eat it. So the problem is sugar. Again, you're going to get some in natural sugars in certain foods like fruits and vegetables, and that's fine. That's not really what I'm talking about, although fruits are not unlimited, guys. As any diabetic knows, fruits can actually cause some spiking of some insulin and just an imbalance in blood sugar. But all of the extra added refined sugars and the high fructose corn syrup can be a really big problem. Type 2 diabetes is one of the few diseases that is almost 100% completely avoidable and almost fixable depending on where that person is. Yes, we might have a predisposition to it, but there is a way around that. We fuel that issue by eating a bunch of garbage that our bodies were not designed to eat the convenience garbage food of today. So if that becomes a good portion of your regular staple diet, it's going to become a problem. So my challenge to you, and it's not going to be easy, guys, but I would love to hear from you if you try this, is, try a detox. Try it for 2 weeks. I highly recommend a month, because 2 weeks is you're just going to be getting through the end of the struggles. I want you to record how you feel, what kind of withdrawals that you have, because honestly, when I do, I get headaches, I feel foggy, I get dizzy. I know it sounds strange, but again, just like everything else, your body has to become used to not taking that in. Same thing like with caffeine withdrawals. See if you can detox for a couple of weeks and see how it feels. You're gonna find it fascinating, and you're gonna find that your taste buds change as you go. So not gonna be easy, but you know what? I'll high five anybody who can pull it off. And I'd like to know how that rolls. So hopefully that helps. You know what? We all have cravings to some degree, but now you know why, and hopefully you can find ways around that. So I'd love to hear from you. If you guys will leave comments below, I get my best ideas from you. Plus, it's always good to see what you think or if you've got something out of it, because you guys are the reason that I do this. And of course, I've blocked out this time every Wednesday. It makes some of my clients irritated because they can't get on the schedule, but this is my time for Q&A Wednesday. So have an incredible evening. Keep those questions coming. I love it. Keep participating. It's great. And everybody have an incredible night. See you later.